breeze blowing, storm clouds moving in. Whatever's gonna happen, it's about to begin. I remember what the drunk donkey told me when he said, son, don't fear. Mike's where the page lies, it's about to begin. Then he's gonna tell you about the wind and the rain. Gonna tell you which way it's going, if it's gonna be a hurricane. Don't you worry about the news that they try to hide. Just click on Mike's page, Drunk Donkey Nationwide. There'll always be some haters, but they don't understand that Mike's got a friend and 100,000 more across the land. Well, if you want to know it first and you want to know it right and you want to have time to plan, Drunk Donkey Nation tells your friend Mike, he's your man. Then he's gonna tell you all about the wind and the rain. Gonna tell you if it's gonna be a storm or if it's gonna be a hurricane. Don't you worry about the news others try to hide. Click on Mike's page, Drunk Donkey Nationwide. Yeah, here at Mike's page, Drunk Donkey Nation Pride. Don't you worry about the news others try to hide. Click on Mike's page, Drunk Donkey Nationwide. Yeah, here at Mike's page, Drunk Donkey Nation Pride. Tells your friend, Mike, he's your man. Then he's gonna tell you all about the wind and the rain. Gonna tell you if it's gonna be a storm or if it's gonna be a hurricane. Don't you worry about the news others try to hide. Click on Mike's page, Drunk Donkey Nationwide. Yeah, here at Mike's page, Drunk Donkey Nation Pride.
Oh, what's up? Your video isn't buffering. I was panicking because I had a setting that wouldn't switch over, and I was trying to get it to work, so I just kept hitting the song button again. So, I apologize for that. I had a setting that wouldn't. Oh, and then I forgot to turn the audio. Man, I tell you, these Sunday Night Lives are just tricky for me because I'm forgetting all kinds of stuff. All right, we're good. Bear with me. We're good. Hunter's on my lap, so we don't do very many of these Sunday night lives. But I think we're good. We're golden. We got it going. It's a little, I'm a one-man band, Mike's Weather Page. I'm the producer, director, content creator, dog whisperer. Just gave everybody more time to log in, right, Shelly? Crazy. Well, let's say hi to Hunter real quick. He was patiently. We usually don't even show the dogs on Sunday night, and we usually don't play music on Sunday night. But Hunter was giving me that look, so he wanted to say hi to everybody. So I hope everybody's doing good. Obviously, I'm Mike from Mike's Favorite Page. We usually go live in the mornings, 9:19 Eastern, Monday through Friday. We do special lives at night. And I wanted to do one tonight. Shelly's online, so thanks, Shelly, for making dinner early so she could be here to help us with our little live session. So we're going to go over all the latest and greatest. We'll be a little bit longer tomorrow in the morning, 9:19. There'll be a lot of models tomorrow morning, overnight models. I know everybody's anxious, and hopefully I give you some good information here in the next 30 minutes or so. So be patient. I don't really get to read comments on these quickies, so we'll stick around at the end and I'll try to read some comments. I know people go on cruising, travel plans. I don't make those decisions. I don't talk anything like that because right now we don't even have a system that's out there. So I want to be clear about that. And if you wondered why the webcam was on when we started, we have a Brew Crew chat, MWP chat. It's our supporter group page, and I was talking to them. So if you wondered what I was doing, I didn't turn the webcam off, so I was rambling on with no audio. But so anyway, this is the deal. We got some area out there that we're watching, and it's nothing right now, and it's very tricky. And I know everybody wants everybody to tell them exactly what's going to happen, and I just don't have a really good feeling right now what's going to happen. But I'm going to give you some opinions and some thoughts here, and hopefully help with what's cooking, and that's what we do here. I've always done it, had a rough few days, going back and forth on some comments, and then it hit me today that the number one thing people have said over the years they like about our page and what I do is give all possibilities, and some people don't like that, and that's fine, but I've always done that, and I think I'm just going to stick to that. And I realize sometimes the worst case models aren't what you want to see, and you think that's hype, but there's another side of the world that likes to see all possibilities, and that's what I try to do. So I haven't really changed. If you're new to the page, thank you for coming, and we're streaming live on YouTube, X, and Facebook, and of course TikTok and Instagram. So welcome everybody. I'm not a real meteorologist. I'm just a hobbyist. Been doing this 20 years. And I always suggest sticking to National Weather Service and National Hurricane Center for official information. Okay? That's very important. So there's no reason to get too upset with anything because I'm not official source. But anyway, enough of that stuff. But here, we're going to talk it. And I only one more thing, Merritt. I only read because I care. If I didn't care, I wouldn't care. But I do care. So anyway. Latest at 8 p.m. So the reason we went live at 8 p.m. tonight, by the way, listen, I'm going to read comments when we're done. The reason I wanted to go at 8 p.m. tonight was because we just got a new update. So I wanted to make sure we had the latest and greatest information. This just came out, 7:31 p.m. No changes, still 40% chance. What does this mean? All right, well, there's basically an area in the X. That's that big old glob of, I'm going to show you that's out there. They don't expect formation until it's in this orange cone area. So we got a few days here before this thing could have, develop into anything. It's not expected to develop until the islands. So if we got people watching the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, chances are this is not going to be very organized at all, okay? It's going to take time. And you'll see this pattern I'm going to show you here of when we might see some sort of organization. But if you're wondering, the cone here is where the formation is expected to happen. So it's got a ways to go before it could even possibly become a tropical depression or more. 0% in 48 hours, 40%. It hasn't changed over about a day now. So yeah, Florida's covered. I mentioned Florida a week ago, and now Florida's in this cone. So yeah, everybody's watching. I'm going to show you the latest models. Okay, timing still looks like Friday-ish around the Bahamas into Saturday, Sunday for Florida next weekend. Okay, we don't have a lot of time, so it's important to show these scenarios and get it in your head. Like, oh my God, this could be in 5 days. So fast-moving system is what they expect. But I am telling you, I am baffled by this system because it's not a system right now. So there's a lot of guessing. And when you guess, you're going to be wrong a lot. So I'm going to go into some thoughts here in a second. I'm going to show you all the latest modeling. Here's why a lot of people share this. This is 0%. This is the 2-day map. This is what the National Hurricane Center defaults to. So if you wonder when I'm showing you orange and 40, you got to click on the little 5 or 7-day probability map. This is a 2-day probability map. Here's what it looks like right now. We're not going to talk about the African wave. I'll wait for tomorrow to talk about this little guy. This is what we're talking about right here. And it's just sloppy. But it is going to be entering an area of a lot better conditions possibly to develop into something. Note here, this is a very odd frontal line. Very odd. It's actually bringing a little spinach up towards the northeast New England area. Crazy. But this front's odd. It's pushed our high pressure system, a little bit to the east. Did expect to see this. Very odd. We're gonna have rainfall here across the eastern U.S. for several days because of this lingering front. So this is going to open the door for this thing to end up going more to the west, northwest, even northwest. So if you're wondering what that is, that's just a front. But that's our area we're watching. This is what it looks like in a water vapor map. Very, very small, but it's hanging on. Some of the discussion from the National Hurricane Center was that this area here was going to catch up to this when it ends up going over here. So if this fuel wraps around to this side, some of this energy might actually moisten this whole area up. So this whole area here is actually odd too, but it's eventually going to catch up to this, and it could end up working together here in a few days. So that's that. I mean, that's dry air in yellow, dry air in orange. But it's been hanging on. There's been little bursts of convection off and on today, so that's what we're looking at right there. So not very healthy, I will say. No true center circulation. Barrow by this time had that. Barrow had a circulation by the Cape Verde Islands, okay? And if you're tuning in because you saw, discussions of a hurricane, yes, okay, all the models have shown a possible hurricane. The Euro, the GFS, the Canadian, okay? So it's not irresponsible to say hurricane ? Okay? Because there has been more than one model saying this could possibly develop, okay? They have backed off a little bit, but I'm going to give you some points on that here too. But this is what we're watching. Here are some modeling today on tropicaltidbits.com. These are Euro, Icon, the GFS, and the Canadian. And this might be hard to see, but bottom line is this. The Euro has been trending east of Florida, curving up awfully close to the Carolinas. The latest run's a little weaker. Weaker goes west. A little bit of development last second over the Gulf Stream. The Icon has been a pretty darn good model over the years. It took a while to catch up to Barrow, but once it did, it was very good with Barrow. I think one of the best as far as the track and intensity goes. So the last run of the Icon actually showed it actually trying to develop this a little more weaker, a little bit more to the west, a little bit more into the Gulf. And it eventually curves it, bends it to the north. Now this time frame is Sunday morning for the Euro, Sunday afternoon for the Icon. This is late Sunday night on the GFS. Now the GFS has been developing this last second going up north, okay? Again, none of these models are showing anything too strong. Now the Canadian here has, and this would be Sunday afternoon. The Canadian's been really consistent about this weaker west curving up. Now, there's an awful lot of land, okay? If this thing was to develop some sort of a core circulation, it's going to cross the high mountains of Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, Cuba. Almost guarantees that this thing would be very, 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 very weak as it ended up possibly in the Gulf, and then maybe has a chance to develop. Some of the European runs had this high pressure that we've been talking about because of this frontal line. The big question mark is, yes, right now, this high pressure is being scooted away, and we're going to have a gap. And this thing is the Euro has been doing that. However, this is not Irma as far as an Irma hurricane, but what we saw with Irma, the initial Euro had it hooking off the east coast of Florida, and the initial GFS had it on the west coast of Florida. The reason being, we had a high pressure that year that built back in fast, and it pushed our system farther to the west. So anybody that says it's guaranteed recurving, I will say with certainty you cannot say right now that it's guaranteed to recurve, which means it's going to miss everybody. All right, these are things that I'm sold on. Is past storms, saw it with Irma, kind of got the same feeling here that the high pressure is going to be everything when that high builds back in. Now, I've been talking about patterns that develop early in the year. talked about it with Ian, talked about it with other systems. The pattern this year has been a strong high pressure. If that high pressure builds back in, it'll shove our system a little bit more west-northwest, okay? So that's why the Icon, the GFS, and the Canadian are a little more to the west. So don't think, one model run changes everybody's emotions. Boom. It's what we're looking at right now is a system that's not even developed, and we're looking at overall consensus, and that is this general flow in that direction. Okay, there's no way to know right now what's going to happen. However, there's some conditions ahead I'm going to show you here in a second. But these are the latest tropical tidbits. We're going to look at some 18Z stuff. I want to look at the ensembles here. The ensembles now. Euro's king. If you ask anybody, 9 times out of 10, the European is king. But it really did bad with barrel. It basically predicted barrel to go into Mexico. That's why we look at all models. Canadian actually did pretty good with barrel. Icon did pretty good with barrel. But these are the latest. Just to kind of give you what the thinking is. You're going to start to see little lines popping up here. These are low pressure lines. Doesn't mean anything other than it's a low pressure area. You kind of use these colored guards as guides, as keys on strength. So for example, this would be Wednesday morning. That's 3 days from now, right? So we're just getting into the Lesser Antilles. Now, the National Hurricane Center says it could be a tropical depression by then. But the pressures are, high. Now, again, the Euro, Canadian, the GFS, the Icon did not do very good with intensity. And I have seen over the years, the Euro is probably the least aggressive with intensity, but it's very good on track. So at this point, we're going to talk about intensity in a second. I think what's important right now is steering, timing. The rest will fall into place because it all comes down to this high pressure system here. Now, here's the latest Euro. These are 12Z. I don't know if we have 18Zs yet. But you can just see the fanning out, okay? A little pull to the north. We've got a weakness. It's going to stay probably north of the islands. And then we just have this general direction and then a turn. It's a recurve. That's what we call recurve. And yes, there's a lot that curve. There are weaker systems that go into the Gulf. And we always got the Carolinas watching extra close. Again, that's just one model. But what it's telling you is a couple things. Even though the intensity we're looking at the fact that it's still intensifying. Common sense. Gulf Stream, the waters are warm. I'm going to show you all that. Any system likely is going to strengthen. Strengthening systems tend to curve, tend to accelerate around this high pressure. A weaker system here that Euro is starting to show could get into the Gulf. So that's kind of where we're at with the Euro. It's been trending East Coast, touching Florida, touching Carolinas, a lot of them missing. Yes. Okay. The GFS ensembles have shown almost zilch. But the GFS, in my opinion, is not at all a very good test right now. It's just struggled so much over the years. But what I am seeing is stronger systems are turning, curving. So the bend is coming. But when's the bend? Weaker west. You got to fall back on history. Weaker goes west before it starts that bend. And it's an odd system. It's not very organized right now. So every hour that goes by and the more west it goes, it's supposed to be going west-northwest right now. So we're going to be tracking that. But the GFS has been all over the place. Have other things open for you to look at here. Here's tropical tidbits again. Let's look at the 18Z Icon. Only goes out 120 hours, so that's really no good. But let me show you what they all did again, just to give you an idea on timing. Just make it a little bit easier. We'll look at moisture maps and go back to 12Z. I'm going to show you the Icon because I think it's one of the best. The fact that it showed it today perked me up a little bit because now I think there's confidence is a little more increasing. But here's like Friday. Like this area right here is kind of what we're looking at. You'll see vorticity maps. Icon doesn't have it. But watch what happens. I mean, weaker west. Here is the blob. This is Friday. Obviously, anybody going, down South Florida, Bahamas, Friday, you're going to be dealing with something. And then this general low pressure area across this Cuba here, and you can just see the icon slowly try to develop it. And it stops here Sunday afternoon. But we know the Gulf of Mexico. Okay? I'm going to talk about the intensity here in a second, but I want to talk about it now too, because the one thing I'm trying to avoid is hyping intensity. Okay? Beryl showed me how important water temperatures are, especially in the Caribbean. Now, the Gulf temperatures are around normal, but we saw Beryl rapidly intensify, and modeling does not do very well with intensity. So we have to use a little bit of past common sense here in history. Anything that gets, in that Western Atlantic, over that Gulf Stream, gets into the Gulf, anything that has a day plus, 2 days plus, could be sneaky. And that's, not saying Cat 5, just saying, we don't know. This modeling is not going to show you reality at this point, is what I've learned, okay? Now, if it gets beat up over the mountains and it comes out over Cuba, it's all tore up, yeah, it's different. But the fact that these are all showing some sort of organization makes you got to just keep a close eye on it, So the icon, there you go, starting to develop a little bit. 1005 is nothing to even stress. It's barely a tropical storm. So just saying, we got to just keep in mind, don't turn your back. I guess the one thing I've learned over the years is somebody might see this model and say, it's nothing. And then they stop watching the weather. And that got a lot of people caught off guard. Not saying this is a Michael, but, Dorian, 5 days out, they predicted a tropical storm. Michael was supposed to be a tropical storm. I'm not saying that yet. We don't see any models showing it, but there are, conditions ahead that look very favorable that we could see something more than just 1005. So anyway, that's kind of a time frame. Again, I really don't see anybody worried about too much in the islands. We got a lot of folks in the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico watching, and Windward Islands and Hispaniola, and I just don't, nothing's showing this thing organizing until it gets, into the Western Atlantic. Now, your latest Canadian, it's been the most aggressive, showing it, going across Hispaniola here. This would be Friday morning. Same thinking, down by the Keys, Friday night into Saturday morning. And then, there's that little spin up. And, this is more realistic, up to about 989, 990 pressure. So that's moving fast. The one thing about this, too, is because we have a gap here, we have this, strong high pressure building back in. We have a weakness here. This thing isn't going to stall. It's not going to be like a Dorian. It's actually going to race around, whatever. Because we have an old front. Remember, these things help fuel systems sometimes. So there could be some energy above at the last second that, gets wrapped up in and helping it. But, Canadians been really consistent. Here's last night's run. So that's, the outlier at this point as far as models that are showing anything too strong. The Euro was showing, there's been runs with the Euro showing 960 millibar and GFS, but these are the latest. GFS has been all over the place. Latest 18Z. Here's Friday. Just really hardly see anything. And then all of a sudden, last second, it kind of, little piece falls off and tries to get going. This is classic GFS not having a clue. But here's a 12Z that I posted earlier. A little bit more realistic. Timing here would be Monday morning next week. So you can just kind of see all three are thinking the same thing. And that's common sense right there. Not a lot of time over water, which is good. Here's Sunday morning, Monday morning. So, one day over the Gulf isn't going to give it much time if that was the path to take. Now, the Euro has been all over the place. Here is Wednesday, just a clump of clouds and rains trying to get going. And over the Bahamas, Friday and Saturday, and little last second spin up. And it really is a weak run, actually. 1008. But again, the Euro intensity, I'm not 100%. Here was a 6Z, didn't go out that far. Last night, 00Z. You know, a little stronger, obviously, over the Gulf Stream there, 980, 990, missing everything. So it did trend a little to the west. You know, it's been trending way away from the U.S., but the last run was a weaker system, but more west. So, you know, so I guess the common theme is it's gonna, you know, it's just nothing right now. So anything too strong just doesn't seem like it's on the plate right now. So that's too strong when I'm talking like major, you know. I mean, worst case scenario would be no mountains, riding along here above Cuba and Hispaniola and crossing the straits here, getting into the Gulf. I mean, so that would give it a window. So, yeah, you're just watching close. But you can see it's not going to develop anytime soon. It's sloppy for a couple days. It's got some vorticity here to spin. That's what, you know, it's kind of got all along here. It starts to try to wrap up. And that's, you know, finally when it's going to try to get going. So it's just, you know, it's just one of these last second little systems here. All right, what else we got popped up here? Now the UK, I shared this earlier. So the only big changes, I guess, today, the GFS showed nothing for a long couple days, about a day or so now. The Icon never showed anything until the last run, and the UK is a pretty darn good model. It's been around forever. It has been showing nothing, and it's showing it. So we got basic consistency here. The Euro and the UK tend to almost think alike, but here is the latest UK. Even though it looks scary, it's only 40 or 39 knots, but you can see it's starting to get tight at the last second. And this would be, you know, where we have this last second strengthening, and this would be Sunday morning. So Friday, you know, we're going to start seeing rains as early as Friday as this thing approaches. Maybe not a lot of rain, but we'll have rain bands. So again, it's sloppy. Here's the water temperatures. These are your sea surface temperature anomalies on tropical tidbits also, and these are showing the water temperatures are pretty normal across the Caribbean for this section. They are warmer than normal on both sides of Florida. So again, that would be where we would watch sneaky last second intensification. The one thing that doesn't have is a lot of time, but remember we saw with Beryl, once Beryl got into these warmer waters along the coast of Texas, it really got going the last second. So you know, the water, this is the anomaly. This isn't the temperature. This is just, it might be a degree below normal. It's still plenty hot, trust me. It's not cold here. It's just where it's at normally in 30 years. And the last 7-day temperature change, that's because we had this persistent, we had a low pressure. I don't know if you remember me talking about it. We had a big old low here that was actually feeding storms and convection over the last week, and it cooled the waters down here. So we're sending a 7-day trend, and I bet you this might warm up the time that whatever down here gets here. This is how the water temperatures change in 7 days. That really doesn't mean much there, but this is your ocean heat content. This is what everybody's talking about. The water temperature below the surface is warmer than normal. So these are things why we got to watch it kind of close. Anytime a system gets into these super duper warm ocean heat content waters, it's fuel. So this thing, if it goes south, if it goes north, it's going to be feeding into these warmer waters. Ocean heat content map, basically this shows you a little bit north of the islands. We are still above last year's water temp. The blue line is the 10-year average, which is normally middle of September. So the water temperatures now are actually where they normally are in the middle of September. This is one thing you need to watch out for, because Beryl obviously used this to really get going. But again, Beryl was already organized. So, but hot water is fuel, and the water temperatures are almost record as far as this red area. If it does get into the Gulf here, not far from average, but still above average. So, you know, and especially where this thing might be riding as far as the eastern Gulf. So water temperatures are hot. We got this thing called the MJO. Now, this is the one thing that might be the biggest unknown, the biggest reason that this thing could get going quick if it stays away from land. These phases of the MJO have been proven to really enhance convection. It's going to be entering a a phase right when this is getting into the Caribbean. The blue area is basically more thunderstorm activity. This is another phase showing you velocity and the basic motion of this wave that comes across. This is hard to see here. This is where we're watching. So the green is enhanced convection, more thunderstorms, better atmospheric conditions for storms to develop. So anytime we get one of these MJO phases that slides in from the west, sometimes we get a heck of a lot more thunderstorms that pop. So we're not in one right now. This is why we're kind of in the sit. This is like, we know this is coming in about 3 or 4 days, and by next weekend it could really be benefiting on this thing, especially if it gets into the Gulf. This is what it looks like. This is just a big energy phase that circles the globe, and when we have those green areas, we have more thunderstorms, basically. We have more rising air towards this natural rising air, and then when we have the suppressed phases down, we have more squashing of the storms. So that's kind of one thing that's coming. Another thing I was looking at before we went live is the wind shear. I don't really like looking long-term wind shear. It changes so much. But when we look at Saturday here, basically, yellow is 34 knots of shear. So blue is very light shear. Not particularly that bad of conditions. Sunday, the GFS is showing a little anticyclone in the Gulf, which is a natural phenomenon that sets up over top tropical systems sometimes. So that could definitely help ventilate a system if it did make it over here. This would be Sunday afternoon. So, shear, bottom line of this, shear doesn't look like it's that bad going ahead. And that's just one of the other reasons. So that's that. But, as far as what I want to say, I think that's pretty much it. Let me pull this up and get a vibe. So what we do know is it's sloppy. It has not developed. It's trying. It would be towards the lower United States this weekend if it's going to make it there. Bahamas Friday. A lot of folks watching in the Caribbean itself. It looks like just a sloppy rainmaker as it passes by. If you live by the models, we don't really see any show anything. The latest runs, in fact, the latest icon, well, it didn't run that far. We have had some showing hurricane. We got this weird frontal line that's kind of shoved our high pressure off a little bit. It's going to lift our system to the north, and then this is going to build back in. If you look at the latest steering here at 500 millibar on tropical tidbits, you can start to see this build back in this weekend. Blues are low pressure, oranges are high pressure. Basically, tropical systems can't penetrate the oranges. So we get into this weekend, and there's our turn. This is a weakness. There's a little weakness to the northeast or northwest, but by Saturday into Sunday, there's our Bermuda high building back in. This builds back in quick. Our system gets shoved to the west more. So these are steering currents. The latest Euro showing a blocking pattern. The latest Euro actually, shows us maybe into the Carolinas now. It wasn't before. The latest, models of what we look at. If the overnight Euro is even stronger Bermuda high, whatever forms is going to go more to the west. So, this has nothing to do with strength of the storm at this point. This is more the upper level pattern. You can see this weakness here going away a little bit. We're starting to see a high build here. So it kind of points to the direction that anything would probably want to naturally go around this high pressure. And that's important because we've seen this high pressure. Here's the latest GFS for Monday. Where it's at now is a sloppy mess right now. This is right now. This is 500 millibar. These are usually your steering currents for stronger systems. But where we're at right now, there's like no high pressure. And that's because we have this big dipping front. The dipping front is like that right now. But watch this high pressure build back in throughout the week. And this has kind of got me intrigued a little bit. So this is Tuesday. This is Friday. This is when something could be around here. There's our high. This is on the GFS. We get into Saturday and Sunday. We get into, Sunday. There's a little weakness here. Naturally, this thing would want to point to that weakness. But then we get to, Monday, this high starts to build back in. So you can just kind of get that feeling that you can't say a reef curve at this point is 100% is what all this is showing. And that's the GFS. So kind of where we're at with that. Remember, weaker systems go west. They got these weaker systems are influenced more by lower level winds. Lower level winds currently are kind of showing you that. This is the direction of these lower level winds. Currently, that's why our system's kind of moving along. Now, we do have a little center of circulation. I'm surprised. There's a little 850 spin right now showing up right here. It's just never really looked that healthy. There's 700. Not too bad, actually. 500 is still very rough. But you can kind of see where we're at. There you go. Look at that. See right there? Boom. That's kind of a little center. That's kind of a little low setting up, actually. That's our tropical wave. That's what's eventually going to be lifting a little bit to the north. But a weaker system follows these lower level winds typically. And I'm kind of surprised, honestly, that this thing isn't like going more like that. But they're pretty confident it's going to be going like that. Now the GFS or the Icon and others are having to do that. So weaker system goes west. But right now, I guess it is nothing. That's a big point. A lot of people say, where's it going to be? Right now, it is nothing more than a figment because it's nothing right now. So like I said, there's a lot of guessing going on right now currently on this. I guess a little bit of common sense. We kind of know. We know the conditions are going to be there. We know that as long as it's got moisture and doesn't, fall apart before that, we could have something to watch here. Anything here, here, obviously, we would watch close. I guess the positives are really only has about a day and a half from here to here, if that's the path it took. Same kind of here to here. So it doesn't have a lot of time. So a lot of it's going to depend on what it does here. So we know what it does here. Now, the National Hurricane Center is saying that we could see a tropical depression over the islands. No models showing that. So the trick in this is this. If this thing does end up organizing as a tropical depression here, that means it's going to have a low pressure seed spin. And that's going to change everything because no model's really shown it develop until maybe here. So if it develops here, then we're going to be talking about more chances of a stronger system if it avoids Hispaniola, which has been known to, tear apart hurricanes. So I hope that makes sense. This is all history repeating itself. But what we haven't had in the past is an MJO coming at the same time of these hot waters. But they say it. I'm curious. They talk about it. They say could be a tropical depression mid to late week around the northern Leeward Islands, Greater Antilles, Southwest Atlantic, or Southeast Bahamas. So they're basically now saying all four areas. So I just don't see it happening until more down the line. But anyway, we watch it close. So, so I guess, we're not looking at a hurricane that's, barrel. The anxiety was very high because it was a hurricane. We don't have that right now. I guess my messaging that I want to portray more than anything is don't turn your back and think this is going to be nothing because of his history. It's very important to watch the next 2 days to see what it does, because then it would have 3, 4, 5 days, out there, 3 days, 4 days. I say 5 days because if it goes in the Gulf, it's more of a day or two extra. So Not seen any modeling yet. We don't have spaghetti models, by the way, because it's not a true invest. Once it becomes an invest, which could be any moment now because it kind of looks like it has a center now. Once we have an invest, then we get spaghetti models. You'll be able to get those at Tropical Tidbits, and I'll share them, of course. But no invest, no spaghetti models yet. And yeah, just sit back, wait, watch, and see, right? That's what we've always said over the years. So I hope nobody's nervous. Carolina should be watching, yes. This thing with that high pressure building back in. To me, my gut, a couple things. The high pressure has been the story all year. High pressure with Irma built back in. The Euro didn't see it. And originally the Euro had this thing missing Florida, Irma. So the high pressure builds back in. It's going to push farther to the west. That's the biggie, is that high pressure system. And but again, Irma was already developed by now. Systems just don't turn into hurricanes overnight. They take time, and the more time this thing takes, the less chances of anything major, at least, coming in. But I will say, and I mention it all the time, this is fact. 10 150-mile-an-hour hurricanes have hit the continental U.S. 9 of those were tropical storms 3 days out. So 3 days or less out. So hypothetically, if this thing was a tropical storm on Wednesday, hypothetically, I don't think it's going to be, then history says it has time to really get going in 3 days. Storms rarely, 1 day is usually not enough. Beryl came off the Yucatan beat up, and it took, until the last second for it to really get going again. So that's it. Don't be canceling plans. Cruise industries, listen, they are the best. They've been dealing with hurricanes for dozens of years. Okay, they go around them. They change ports of call. Life goes on with the cruise. They know how to go around these things. So unless they cancel you leaving, which, Friday, most cruises leave Friday. Maybe Sunday could be a little bit tricky if we had a little system out there. You just have to wait. You just have to play it by ear. I mean, I showed timing. Sometimes they have to cancel docking, but they do an extra day at sea. That's what they do, or they'll bypass a port and go to another one and come back to that other one when the storm passes. So I went to Tijuana Flats today for dinner. It's pretty good. The girls got a brownie, and 4 of us, we couldn't open it. We had to get scissors. They made the damn brownie so hard to open. All right, well, let's read everything. Let me get should Florida be on alert? Well, Chris, Florida should be watching 100%. And that's not my tone. Hey, Yohel, what's up, buddy? How's down south cooking, man? The Rays trades are the big story, Craig. I agree. And yes, ABC. They sponsor our Daily Brew in the mornings and at night. But Floridians, you know what to do. But, I did take a lot of heat a week ago. A long time ago. But now that Florida's in the cone and you read the tone, everybody's saying you should watch this close. Not me, okay? So it does piss me off a little bit when I take all the heat for going out on these limbs a week out, and now everybody's kind of telling everybody in Florida, pay attention, Not be scared, just be alert that we could have something developing nearing the state this weekend. I mean, that's facts. This thing misses Hispaniola. It's got those super duper warm waters in the Caribbean. We know it can happen. We know. History says it. We know that models are very conservative on intensity. We saw that with Beryl. Terrible with intensity. Euro's the worst. So, Yeah, Derek, don't be nervous about the Bahamas on Saturday. First off, like I said, they'll divert you. Don't ever be nervous, man. The cruise lines they figure it out. They've been dodging hurricanes for forever. This is even a hurricane, so I wouldn't even sweat it right now. Flights, see, there we go. Flights. I'm not an airline agency. There you go, yo. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, hurricane next week. Now I did do a TikTok and said hurricane with a question mark because you got to get people's attention. Christopher, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Richard Reamer. Chris got a shirt coming. Cool, man. Oh, what hot sauce did I get at Tijuana? Frank wants to know. God, I love it. Michael, hell yeah, I'm chasing. Oh my God, the hottest ones they got. I had 3 of them today. One of them had like a pepper salt or pepper, like a chili sauce. It was their hottest one. They only had one. It was really good. I love their queso, man. I think it's going to go north of Puerto Rico. If it doesn't go north, the thing is, if this thing's weaker, it ain't going to be turning north anytime soon. So weaker goes west. And remember, the modeling that's going into the Gulf actually has this thing going a little more to the west. Remember, there's some European models now showing this as a weaker system. But it's going to be more of a rainmaker here, I would almost bet money. So I wouldn't stress too much. And it's going to be moving pretty fast, so it ain't going to be hanging around much. It's not going to stall or anything. I mean, it is kind of crazy to think here on Sunday night, here Friday night. So that's only, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So it's going to be moving pretty quick. So, yeah, so, I did a lot of reflection the last few days on messaging and try not to hype, but man, I do apologize to anybody that thinks that. So, and I don't do this for clicks. I guess that's the only thing that pisses me off. I don't need the clicks. I got 3 million followers now. Boogie boards. I don't know, man. That's the hot sauce, Frank. It was good. Oh, Kristen, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that video, but I wanted her to see it. It's a memory. I wanted her to be proud because I've been her number one fan. Now, don't get me crying. I don't want to talk about it. I say it in person all the time, too. I'm not like, it was more of a way for her to see it forever, It's kind of like it was more of so the Twitter post was more of a Hallmark video card. So, Tampa, listen, T. Martinez, there wasn't that long ago the GFS had it curving right up on us, and we're seeing that hook and curve. So, wins the bend. That's my new slogan. Came up with it this year. Wins the bend. And what I'm starting to see is that it's all a guess at this point. There's a lot of gut, a lot of common sense, but seeing that high pressure build back in over the weekend, high pressure has been dominating this season. And again, I thought back of Irma and the original track for Irma when it was still a hurricane here, but the original track for Irma for the Euro was that. That was the Euro, and the GFS was that. So the Euro was wrong with Irma when it was this far out. And that was all because this high pressure built in, and every day it got a little stronger, and it just kept going a little more west. So these are question marks because of land and, but wind shear doesn't look that bad, water temperatures, all that stuff we look at. But right now it doesn't have a seed. It kind of does a little bit, though. I'm a little let me watching this kind of close. Kind of looks like it's setting up some sort of a little rotation, which is exactly where they're putting it, around 1249. And right here, I don't even have to hopefully verify it, but there's about 1249. So that right there is exactly where Wendy's at right there. So that's decent little vortex. I bet. Let's see what the 850 map looks like. This is the old school 850 map. And it's got a little dot. It's a lot of sloppy low, but there is one little prominent 850 right here at 49. See 49. So could be trying. There's just not a lot of moisture with it. 49. I'm really. Let's see. Nothing 500. But what's kind of crazy a little bit is this water precipitable map. This map here, kind of showing you this. This is kind of what we talked about last week. Was this? So I know we got a lot of people that watch, and we watched this happen last week. But this plume right here, this came off last week to the north, and this is moisture in the atmosphere, and there's our spin right here. So eventually this is moisture in the atmosphere. Look at this low up there in New England, man. I didn't want to overshadow. Man, it's crazy what's going on up there. We're gonna have to look at that. It's not tropical or anything, but this frontal line is spinning off a weird low to New England right now. But this is moisture that eventually could feed into this system and help it fuel it a little bit. So this is catching up to our system, and it might be racing that dry air out ahead of it. So this is moisture. This is our system. Kind of interesting. A little extra fuel to be pulling in from. But look it up north. Let's look at New England right now. This is nuts. This is going on up there right now. This is a live look here. And you can't really see it, but modeling you can see it. Look at this HRR. I almost shared yesterday, but then I'm like, nah, just stick to the tropics right now. But it still had a lot of spin, which is really crazy. Look at this thing. You see it spinning in? Look at that. It's a little low pressure, man. It's coming up ashore. Now nothing other than rain. No storms were really with it, but you can really see it on that precipitable water map. Right here. Look at that. Look at this spot right here. Right there. That's going up. That's nuts. And that's all because of this frontal line. Oh, Daily Brew, college football. What's up? Yeah, busy season they predicted. Hey, we'll see. 22 more storms apparently. We'll see about that, right? Be a busy couple months. 22 more storms. Debbie's the next on the list with a Y. Debby. So I guess, bottom line, Bahamas, Florida would be the ones watching first. Carolinas and the East Coast and the Upper Gulf next, because that would give you an extra day of planning. It could be by the Bahamas Friday. It could be by Florida as early as Friday night, overnight for the lower part, into Saturday for the peninsula, into Sunday this week coming up. Modeling is kind of not showing much. So far so good. I guess I'm just cautious. I don't want to use a tone of like it's nothing, and I don't want to use a tone of, oh my God, it could be bad, because there's no modeling that shows that. I guess my experience is expect the unexpected with these water temperatures, and we know any organized system around Hispaniola, let's say, even towards Cuba, would be something to watch close, especially if it goes below Florida or even through Florida a little bit and gets over here in the Gulf. So yeah, just cautiously watching. No need to be worried. There's nothing showing to be worried about. National Hurricane Center is at 40%. They're not extremely confident yet that this thing's going to organize. So yeah, it could be a lot to do about nothing. But that's not how I roll. So, we have model support. If we didn't have model support, they'd be making things up. But we've had enough model support to keep a close eye on it. Now the overnight models, we'll see what they do. These 00Z models. This little upper level disturbance here might be wrapping some of this moisture down toward our system, but man, it just does not look very good at all. We get a little pop here, a little moisture here. So, but we'll be up in the morning, 9:19. I'll be really anxious to get up in the morning and see the latest modeling. So, water temp's hot. Yes, correct. T. Martinez. Bigger blob behind it, Laura. Believe it or not, there's really no models showing anything. So I'm not going to hype that thing at all. It would be hype at this point. But it is a big blob. But a lot of times these big blobs land over the Atlantic and then they dry up too. So usually the rule of thumb that I saw with the NHC is they give it a few days over water before they'll even talk about it, because they got to see if it maintains anything. So we'll talk about that in the morning. This one's pretty much focused on... I did see twisters, Brianna. Hell yeah, that was freaking amazing. I want to see it again. I want to see it 4D. I've heard 4D is really good. Anybody see Reed post last night? What was up with that? When will it get to Florida? Well, Larry, right now it isn't a thing, which is good, right? But you can start to see effects as early as Friday afternoon, Friday night. Desiree, what's happening? How you been? I don't get on Facebook much to see friends, so I hope you're doing good. But yeah, it could be as early as South Florida Friday afternoon, Friday night. More this weekend. You gotta be careful though, but Friday night you can start to see some bands if this thing were to develop. So, but I like the dude. I want to get a sticker. What was it? The cowboy thing, whatever. Oh, and I got my flux capacitor mounted in my truck. It's so awesome. You can see it from the back of the, coming from behind. I mounted it behind my headrest. So it's so cool. Jake, well, other than Beryl, Beryl was it. Welcome, April. Yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. I hope this was helpful. It's hard to, there's nothing confident right now, so we just kind of have to talk about the scenarios, what the models are showing, what's happened in the past, what could hurt it, what could help it. Just at this point doesn't look very impressive at all. It's trying to develop a center. If it develops a center, then it's different. But, I just don't know what to make of it right now. I just think it's going to be a sneaky last second, Wednesday, Thursday, what it's doing then. Because right now it ain't doing anything. So we're just speculating what it could be versus, so every storm's different. This weird frontal line that's in the picture is very odd. That's going to create a weakness, and this is going to eventually get pulled up, they think. But anyway. But this weekend, it's not that far away. I'm getting gas. It will be a big day tomorrow. Tabletop Greek, it could be heading to the Carolinas. You know it, man. This thing is, how many times over the years we've seen one skirt the East Coast and just put us all on pins and needles, right? Difference with this system than Irma. Irma was already organized by now, so it's my history tells us weaker goes west. So if I didn't even have a model to look at, I would say this is going to go into the Caribbean. It's going to have to start turning north soon, or it's actually going to end up farther south, which would put, golf a little more in play, and recurve out of play. Storm truck is ready. What's up, Joel? So anyway, I hope everybody's doing good. We'll be live in the morning at 9:19 a.m. Eastern all week long. Euro usually is the model to follow, Desiree, but you know what? It didn't do good at all with barrel. It was one of the worst. So what I try to do, I put all four on the map. The GFS, believe it or not, the Icon and the CMC, which is GEM actually, those did the last couple years, they have been really good models, sniffing things out early. I'm telling you, and they're both showing upper Gulf, Panhandle, Eastern Gulf. So that's a scenario. The GFS a couple of days ago had a strong storm just off the coast. So that scenario is still on the plate. Just because the Euro was showing a recurve off the East Coast doesn't mean anything. I bring up Irma as an example again. It's not always right, and it wasn't right with barrels. So yeah, so I guess if you're in stages of planning, this is a time to be aware of it. And I think that's the point. Like if you go to my TikTok, these are the videos I put everywhere. I put these videos on all the platforms, So 7/24, I posted Florida troubles. And that's not meant to scare anybody, but you hope you get aware. But that was, 4 or 5 days ago we were talking about it. So I just try not to, So anyway, so point being, at this point in the game, hurricane plans. I have great links up here. Hurricane plan, how to prepare, right here. Good stuff. Very good links from the National Hurricane Center. I have a lot of great content here on the side. Hurricane helpful links right here. All kinds of links here you can study right there. Just to kind of get a game plan, kind of start to know you want to know your zone. Because if we did get a system, you want to know what evacuation zone you're in. Start getting an idea where you would go. The big tone now is go miles and not, tens of miles, not hundreds of miles. Basically getting out of the zones that are evacuated, like water. So you stay away from the water. You run from the water, hide from the wind. So this would be the time stamp. Say okay, let's see. Generator. Got your firm and power equipment generators fired up. Make sure they start. It's a good time to just go out in the garage, make sure it runs. They sit stagnant, and sometimes carburetors get dirty. So that's something I would do, and just kind of be aware. What if this thing gets a little organized? If you're in a zone A, we saw what Barrel did with only a Cat 1. They could be have as much headaches as stronger systems. So, wouldn't hurt to have some gas in the vehicles now. Why not, right? Beat the rush. I will. I'm going to do it. I'm going to fill my truck up and fill up all my cans. Just why not? You can always use it. But not because I see anything, just being ahead of the game in case something were to happen. All right. So anyway, USVI is, listen, everybody in the Caribbean, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, Windward Islands, I just don't see this thing being anything other than a rainmaker next couple of days. So still watch it, but when do you run from the wind? 0. Well, yeah, that's a personal choice, right? If you got trees, trees still go down in Cat 1s. Ruth still. We saw with Beryl. We have a Brew Crew member, Shelly, right? What was her name? Greg, if you can feel it, chase it. What's up, buddy? We had a Brew Crew member lose half of her roof during Beryl, so you could still have roof damage. Not fun. I've become a Debbie. Oh, God. That's our next name on the list. Debbie Downer when it comes to evacuating, because I'll get into that more tomorrow. But if that ain't your thing, you know, then when they tell you to evacuate, I suggest it. Just not everybody's up for what comes along with, you know, storms sometimes. But yeah, I mean, I would, you know, stronger the winds is more inland. I would go. How about that? Debbie does Florida. Anyway. All right. Well, that was hopefully some information for you. Really appreciate you, Shelly, for jumping in and helping. And we'll be live in the morning. Again, there's no reason to be worried. Anybody, just aware. How about that? I don't have any concern at this point. People like to hear my thoughts. I'm cautiously curious. That's a good one. Cautiously curious on a sneaky end of the week system trying to get going. How about that? Just because we've seen it in the past. And the environment is supportive of that. So that's cautiously, what did I say, Shelly? Cautiously what? Cautiously curious. We're going to have modes of Mike. Cautiously curious is like a level 2. Cautiously curious. Cameron, where can you listen to that song? Well, listen. My buddy Justin Danger. Listen, did you know? I got a link here. I have a page for everything. You know that, right? Right here, MWP Songs. Boom, right there. Andy Simmons. I think I got 8 or 9 songs he's written for us, and they're really good. So the original was the Johnny Cash remake, right? But we got nabbed for copyright. So, because even though it's a parody. Bummer, right? Can I repeat the first part? No. Tracy, listen. There's a lot of hype today about East Coast going to be a fish storm. No. There's just as much modeling on both sides, unfortunately. I'm just cautiously curious about the intensity models. I'm just worried that too much is going to be put into these models showing 1,000 millibar, you know, when we know reality is once this thing gets a seed and that other conditions are there, they can get going a little bit quicker. So, yeah. No models showing a major if you're into models, so that's good. Catch you tomorrow. All right, cool. It's been an hour. Richard, no beer for me tonight. Tomorrow maybe. I'm going to go out there and work on my truck for a little bit and then try to catch a Netflix and get up early. I was up at 3:30 this morning, so. Anyway, all right. Well, listen, we'll see y'all in the morning. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. We'll talk a little bit longer tomorrow. I'm going to keep it on the Brew Crew now. Anybody in the Brew Crew chat, if you got anything you want to talk about, we'll talk about it. All right? That's it. See you later, alligators.